Hey, GW coming to you live here once again. First off, before I even get started talking about this movie, I want to give my man Juggalo Madness out on YouTube. I want to give him a big shout out. We had a nice conversation about RoboCop and Rambo. And you know what? When I did the RoboCop review, I had forgot to say something and he reminded me, so I wanted to thank him for that. Basically, there was a screenplay written called RoboCop Returns. It's going to be ultra gory, ultra crazy, and it was written around the time of the first film hit. But apparently, Orion Pictures had passed on it, and they gave us RoboCop 2 dealing with Kane. RoboCop Returns was supposed to be OCP's revenge on RoboCop. Sound like a great screenplay, but somehow, whenever they passed on it. So then we're talking about Rambo 5. If you go in chronological order, this is Rambo not dealing with Vietnam POWs or mercenaries. We're dealing with the drug cartel. So an interesting running joke that we had throughout that was Rambo 6, A Call to Heaven. And you know what? Sylvester Stallone would probably do it if there was a high pay involved. I suggested Rambo versus Satan. The battle to end all battles. So we had a nice spirited discussion, some of which are on public comments. You guys can go check them out. That's thing one. Thing two, I'd like to say thank you to my man Kuva Luton. I hope I said that right. Who I think is from another country. So hey, welcome along and thank you so much for watching my videos, and thank you for saying they are awesome. So with that in mind, we're going to dive back into the Wayback Machine, and we're going to talk about one of the more interesting films I have seen in my life, and it's called Suicide Kings. I'm sure you guys seen that. That's what the screen was pointed to. Now notice it's still in shrink wrap. That's because this DVD may be hard to get. It might not be. I think they stopped putting this thing in print about 2 years ago. I could be very wrong. But anyway, it has an all-star cast: Christopher Walken, Jay Moore, Henry Thomas, and believe it or not, Big Bang fans, Johnny Galecki. That's right, Johnny Galecki. And if you don't believe me, let's see where his name is. Johnny Galecki. There it is. Now, this is a very, very cool film, and it's one of those ones you want to watch with friends because there's so much going on. Christopher Walken, Dennis Leary, they're mob guys. And basically what happens is that Christopher Walken is kidnapped. And they want a $200,000 ransom. Or I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. I just got off kilter. Avery's sister, Avery's a character in the movie, I'm sure you guys already knew that, though, has been kidnapped and ransomed for $200,000. So Avery and his buddies decide to kidnap Christopher Walken because, hey, the mob's got money, right? They got money hand over fist, right? Problem is that when you watch this film, everything starts to unravel. And they kidnap this guy and hide this guy in Avery's best friend Ira's house. Doesn't sound like a plan. That's like me kidnapping John Gotti and hiding him at my grandma's house. Really doesn't go good. There's too many what ifs here, guys. Now, Christopher Walken plays mob boss Charlie Bartucci. I can't even talk today. It's been one of those days of work, guys. I'm sorry. Charlie Bartolucci. There we go. Finally spit it out right. They force Bartolucci to use contracts and find the right girl to find out where this girl's being held and how much money they want. The seasoned mobster agrees to help them, but not before he cautions the guilty party they might be under nose. So what this movie's about, if you guys didn't get that, is that they kidnapped this mob guy, like I just said. All right. throughout the course of the movie, they narrow who could be the suspect down. And there is a funny scene at the very beginning of this with Dennis Leary and a homeless guy who's obviously drunk. And it's pretty good. And the word busket will take on an entire new meaning. But what makes this film interesting is not only was it made in 1998, I remember this film and I was really a big fan of it. And it's really a great film because it's one of those ones, sort of like The Usual Suspects, where you go into it thinking one thing. By the end of the movie, the whole scene unravels. And you get to have a clearer picture than the guys in the movie. A trick Quentin Tarantino did in The Hateful Eight, where in the third act, he actually stopped the movie, showed you, the audience, what went on, so that some of the main people didn't know what was going on, but you did. Very cool trick, and what I want to say, awesome congratulations on Tarantino for a $40 million opening on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I can't wait to see it. I'm getting that sucker on Blu-ray because, hey, I love the Tarantino, man. That's my dude. Been down with him since Reservoir Dogs, which, if you watch this, you can see some of the violence that these guys took from Reservoir Dogs. Now, this is the special features. Doesn't have much, just has your commentary track. Alternate endings. I'm not going to spoil the whole movie for you because I'd get into spoilers very quickly. But basically, once you watch it, it's pretty awesome. So anyway, guys, sorry about that. I sneezed. Shouldn't have done that. But in case you didn't hear me, my thumb was over speaker. I said I sneezed. Sorry about that. And now it was written by Gina Goldman, Josh McKinney, and Wayne Bryce. All right? You guys got to know that. It was put out by Artisan Entertainment and directed by Peter O'Fallon. It's interestingly enough, that last name, Fallon. Fallon is actually the character of Dennis Leary on what movie, guys? Judgment Night. It's pretty wild. It was in theaters on April 17th, 1997. It's pretty wild. Now, I'm looking at Rotten Tomatoes, and what I like about this movie, too, as gritty as it gets, it also has a lot of black comedy in it, guys. So you guys can check that out. But other than that, it was very interesting. And Johnny Galecki plays the most, I would say, lovable character of the whole film. Tell you the truth. Now, here's something interesting, guys. That Sean Patrick Flannery and Henry Thomas plays Avery. He's the guy that's, concocting this whole deal. All right. Jay Moore plays Brett Campbell, and believe me, the guy's not altogether there. All right. Let's see. Dennis Leary. See, I'm looking up in IMDb, and believe it or not, there's no Johnny Galecki. So we'll click full cast. Johnny Galecki plays Ira Redder, which he's not all there either. Let's see. Usually they tell you guys if there's any controversies or anything like that. Secondary unit, we don't care about stunts. Stunts perform, we already know that. By the way, while I'm looking to see what's going on here, I just want to say, I'm sorry, guys, that I have been, out, and not being able to do these. Here's something interesting, that Dennis Leary, with the exception of the Mickey Mantle speech, which you'll remember that speech when you watch the movie, all of his dialogue was improv. And here's a goof, guys. Here's a good one. In this film, the power goes out for the first time. Now, you know how it's a goof? Because when the power goes out, what do you have to do to your microwave? You have to set it, right? Well, after the power goes out for the first time in this film, the clock is still going. Believe it or not. Let's see. There is a boom mic that's visible, and I remember pointing this out the first time I saw it. Now, you got to watch for it, but it's reflected in the mirror when Avery and the gang are debating how Charlie should go to the bathroom. You can check that out. There's continuity errors abound in this thing. The duct tape around Bartolucci changes positions almost from shot to shot, guys. So you're going to have to play a drinking game on that. Told you about the microwave. There's another thing going on. The first time the phone in the house is used, they make a big issue of keeping it on the speaker. That's true. They do. They get into a heated discussion whether or not to put the thing on speakerphone. The next time, for an even more important call, it's not even brought up. So apparently it was a lost cause at this point. Now, this is a pretty cool one. In the final scene, Max Minot, his swim trunks, they couldn't pick a color for him. So it went from tan to dark green. Go figure. Let's see. In the last scene, like I said, I memorized these. In the last scene where Bartolucci's talking to the dude Elise, the sun cast a shadow of his hat on the right side of his face. In the next shot, believe it or not, guys, there's no shadow because the sun had went down. These are things that make this movie fun to watch. Here's another one. And I remember all these. When the boy's about to get hit by a truck, the view, the camera, through the window, shows the car moving when it's supposed to be still. So in other words, they're cowering for nothing, right? Now here's a good one. Near the end of the film, Brett is pointing a gun at Avery, then he walks away, right? Okay? I'm not going to give anything away. Brett puts the gun on the table in front of him and then sits his tail on the couch like nothing happened. The next shot, up close, Brett has the gun in hand again. So why did he put it down in the first place is what I want to know. But again, you guys can look for that. Let's see. There's even errors in geography. And you got to watch for these. Ira brings in a brownie mix from Ralph's, a California chain of supermarkets, right? The movie is set in New York. I'm going to let that sink in a minute. The movie's set in New York. He goes and gets a brownie mix from Ralph's, a California chain of restaurants. I know, I was out in California. I've seen them. So, there's other ones here. I'm not going to ruin it. Here's a good one, though. The Queens Midtown Tunnel connecting Manhattan to Queens, and if you guys ever drove that, it's a pain in the ass, and a 2-lane tunnel is in both directions. But the film depicted it as 4 lanes. I don't know. But hey, I'm going to let you guys, check that out. But yeah, give Suicide Kings, and if you can find the DVD, I suggest you guys check it out. Despite the movie clips or the movie goofs and everything else, this is a very fun movie. But, movie goofs are something I never even touched on. There are plenty of big productions that race through to get a movie finished. There's a big continuity error in The Beast Within, where there's a scene of a window, right? And there's a shotgun in the window. The camera flashes away for 1 second, flashes back, no shotgun. It's things like that, that make films worth watching. So that's Suicide Kings. Now I want to talk a little bit about Mad Magazine, so I'm just going to shoot the floor, or shoot the radiator. That's perfect. By the way, the radiator was an inspiration for David Lynch's Eraserhead. I don't know if you guys know that. But Mad Magazine, who has been a staple of my childhood, your childhood, And it's an American tradition. You grew up, you read Mad Magazine. Now I did touch on this a couple reviews ago, but apparently they have now officially said that all new material, they're not going to do anything new. So here's the question: if people are so upset with nowadays about Seinfeld, I can remember just a little bit ago they showed that one episode, the Junior Mint. And people like, oh, we can't show that. We can't talk about, we can't have that kind of humor. That's why Saturday Night Live died. And in my book, it's dead, because when you can skewer things and make fun of things to the point where they're not scary or they're not turned on their ear because they're a little serious, then you have no show, just like Mad Magazine. One of the best segments in Mad Magazine, guys, was Spy versus Spy. It was a black spy and a white spy, and all they did was kill each other. It was great. It was like Tom and Jerry, Then you had movie parodies, where Rocky would turn into a movie parody called Rockhead. It was classic stuff. You had all kinds of stuff. You had the fold-in page. You guys remember that? That's when you took like a big picture and you folded it in, it made like a face or something, and it was great. Now, Mad did have a sister magazine called Cracked. Now, Mad Magazine, their signature mascot was Alfred E. Newman. Cracked Magazine had Sylvester P. Smythe. Okay. I believe Cracked is a TV show. You can find it on Pluto, maybe. I don't know. It was at one point. Mad Magazine also had a spin-off TV show with one of the greatest comedians of our time, Artie Lang. Mad TV ran for a few seasons. It was great, But what the point I'm trying to say is when, things like this die, when Mad Magazine stops, when your favorite sitcom stops, there's a little piece of you that disappears, And I hope to God that, we can still find digital episodes of Mad, or we can find an old Mad Magazine stashed up under our bed, with a Star Trek parody, and we can read it and realize that, it takes us back to a point in our life, That's what I'm saying, guys. Now, I know that was preachy for some of you, and I know the movie review wasn't that great, but I'm sorry, like I said, I've been off it for a while. But I have been noticing, a lot of people have been popping up and watching my shows, and I just want to say, hey, that's great, because, guys, I keep telling you over and over again, when you try to do something and you put something out on the internet, you don't know who's going to bite or if it's even going to get watched. Who knows, 25 billion years from now, my stuff could be playing in a Martian spacecraft in front of 50,000 Martians next to Bohemian Rhapsody. I mean, who knows? The one other thing I want to touch on is I haven't said anything publicly, but I did a segment a while back called What Movies Should Be Made. It was on the GW show. Bubba the Love Sponge. If you guys don't know him, you guys should check him out. He's a shock jock disc jockey out of Tampa Bay. All right. He had his own website for a while, BubbaRaw.com. You guys can go there, check it out. It's a pay-per-view site. He also has Bubba Radio. And he was almost like the Howard Stern, only he took what Howard did, modified it into his own, and instead of just having porn stars, and outlaw bikers, he would perform crazy stuff, like the Human Firework Challenge. That's where you take a guy, you put him in a fire-resistant suit, you tape M80s to him, and you shoot bottle rockets at him. Yes, this stuff does go on, guys. Bubba the Love Sponge. And his movie would make for a perfect biopic. Because here's a guy who got the largest FCC fine leveled against him. Radio stations dropped him. And from the ashes, he rose again and became the #1 shock jock disc jockey in, all of Florida for a while. He was on trial for he had a big backyard barbecue, in one of these big festival things. He had somebody come in and kill a pig. and yet he was charged for it. He didn't negotiate with Sirius Radio. He jumped over there when Howard jumped, but he didn't negotiate. So he went to Radio IO. Radio IO said, you can do whatever you want. But if you look him up, his life makes perfect sense. And right now, the guy, he's spending most of the days at a dirt track racing. And he's my hero. Because not only, did he stand up for what he believed in, he also was good to the people. If you called the Bubba the Love Sponge show and you had a problem, he would probably go out of his way to help you if he got the call. Not to mention the numerous talent that he has that have been, not even mentioned, like Manson. And if you guys ever wondering why Bubba is not on the air, part of it had to do with the Hulk Hogan sex tape. You guys should check that out. But his life would make a perfect biopic. How likely is that to happen? Tell you the truth, I don't think anybody's even thought of that idea. The other movie I want to talk about that I hope happens in my lifetime is called The Book of Luke. And it's about a rap group in the 1990s. And some of you people know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the 2 Live Crew. Now, the 2 Live Crew biopic would be perfect because Straight Outta Compton hit, and it hit big. People were able to see how NWA rose and became a phenomenon, setting trends for other rap acts to follow. Right? 2 Live Crew movie could do the same thing. You could take the grittiness of Straight Outta Compton, combine it with the risque elements of The People versus Larry Flynn and Showgirls, mix it all into one, and you could have a hell of a biopic. Now, for those of you who don't know the 2 Live Crew, I'm going to give you a little bit of a, breakdown and scenario here. Was on March Air Force Base. It was 3 guys. It was Fresh Kid Ice, Chris Wong Wong, who passed away. He was the first Asian rapper to gain fame. Just want to put that out there. Brother Marquise and Mr. Mix. Mr. Mix was the DJ. Brother Marquise was vocalist. Fresh Kid Ice was vocalist. They somehow came to meet Luther Campbell, who was a show promoter. So they had an idea. They said, look, if Marilyn Manson could make all this racket by being satanic, we gonna flip the script and we gonna get the people freaky, because that's what we gonna do. They released a record. Now, some of you might know this. They released a record called Nasty as They Wanna Be. This record put them on the map. They were in the eye of controversy. They were arrested in a club in Broward County, Florida. They were told not to sing dirty rhymes. They didn't sing no dirty rhymes. They sang the edited version. The kids and the people in the audience screamed the profanities. And I've listened to the songs. I'll tell you what, they profane as all hell. But you can go back to that moment and you could see that music once again challenged the freedom of speech. Another thing they did, they challenged the copyright laws of a song. Roy Orbison did Pretty Woman. They come around and parodied it and made it Oh Harry Woman. I'm telling you straight up, this actually happened. Luke then went on to go a solo career. So did 2 Live Crew. They released a few albums without Luke. Then they got back together. My cat's all upset about this now. They got back together and they made the new 2 Live Crew. They made that for 1 CD. And nobody wanted to do anything else after that. Luke went on to do a show on VH1 called Luke's Parental Advisory. And it was interesting to see. I think the thing only lasted a season. But it was interesting to see how the nasty man from Miami dealt with things that his kids come up with. Like, his kids got caught with an X-rated video. How does Luke handle that? How likely is this to happen? Well, last I checked, and I check on this thing periodically. Last I checked, they did have a lead for Luther Campbell. Now, Luther Campbell and the 2 Live Crew were on the Phil Donahue Show. You can find that on YouTube. And I suggest if you're interested in, people who challenge authority, and who, try to, do what they believe in. Check that out. Anyway, I know it's been a while, and I know you guys are probably tired of hearing me rattle on about Luke and Bubba and Suicide Kings and all this type of mess. Y'all guys want to go out and have a good Friday. So I'll tell you what, we're going to drop some more videos in the future, and I just wanted to thank all my new subscribers, and I'm sorry y'all had to look at the radiator for 25 minutes. I just didn't have a shirt on, guys. I'm sorry. And who knows? Maybe one day if somebody pay me enough, I'll do the ice bucket challenge in my underwear. Who knows? But anyway, I'm glad y'all listen, and I'm glad I got people out there to care, and I hope you learned something. And if y'all ever see the book of Luke, y'all should run out and see it. Because it's probably going to be a biopic that's going to push some limits, and it's going to open up your eyes to the real truth. And if anybody wants any Friday night viewing, if you are home and you like the movie The Doors, Oliver Stone just dropped the 4K edition with the alternate ending, although it's not really a different ending, it's just more an abrupt ending. But there is 3 minutes cut out of the film. Now you can also watch the theatrical version if you like The Doors. I love the movie. And Val Kilmer and Jim Morrison, I swear to God,